Hello, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Katie, and I hope you are having a great day. I was hoping to have something up a little earlier. I actually had something completely filmed and ready to go, but my computer kind of died on me. So while that is being worked on, I'm not going to be able to put up as much information as I usually do just because I'm working off of my husband's computer. So I will be a little more dependent on putting stuff down in the notes, but I will still be able to put pictures up when needed. But besides that, I've had kind of a weird knitting month. I have a lot of works in progress to share with you. I don't think I have any finished projects. I was doing a lot of manic knitting this month, and I also was playing around with crochet and some other stuff that I will get into in a bit. But I just had a really good time exploring and trying not to put so much pressure on myself because it's been just a really weird, tense year. And when the things that I do to relax start making me tense and kind of stressed, then I know I need to take a step back and kind of reevaluate what I'm doing. I still have a lot that I am excited to share though, and excited to have off of my needles soon. You can see that I am wearing my As If tee by Shay Johnson, and I think this was just a finished project by my last episode, but I really love how this looks. I feel very fancy today. So starting with my works in progress, the first one I have here is the one that I've done the least amount of work on so far. And it is my Caledonia Coat by Crystal Seyfarth. And this is using her yarns. It was the kind of an all-in-one kit where you order the kit and you get the yarn with it. I had some bumps in the road starting this one because my cable was too short, and I thought that I could get away with just being very careful, laying all of my stitches out just to try to be really short because I am notoriously bad about twisting my stitches. And after I had them all on and I was very careful to try to watch them, it was all bunched up, and I had worked almost this far the first time before I realized that I actually had twisted the stitches, and so that was really not great. But I ripped back and I ended up ordering another cable that was long enough and is not interchangeable. So besides that little hiccup, it's going smoothly now. I will say that the other improvement in buying these needles was that these are metal, and the ones that I started on were wooden needles, and that was quite a bit more challenging with this yarn because I am not used to yarn quite this rustic. Yeah, using the yarn with wooden needles, I had to do a lot more kind of shoving around and forcing, and that on top of the yarn just feeling rougher to my hands was making it a little bit more of a chore. Also, I need a lot of practice in Fair Isle knitting in general because I get twisted so often. So I need to be a little more vigilant about looking into stuff, learning about a new technique before I go in would make the process a lot easier for myself. But that being said, I am enjoying it so far, and I am just really intrigued to see how this one knits up in the whole process because it's going to be different from anything that I've ever knitted before. Next up, I have my Weekender Light by Andrea Mowry, and this is in the Noro Silk Garden Light Solo yarn, and it is the tan colorway, which is really gorgeous. This is another yarn that just has so much variety, and it's just very interesting to look at. This is supposed to be in a fingering weight for the pattern, but it's actually DK. I thought this was gorgeous on its own, and I was okay with having something a little heavier than what the pattern called for, just kind of an in-between weekender. I really love the construction of this. It is the opposite garter stitch, but you actually work it inside out so that you don't have to just purl in the round over and over again. Nice to work up. And I also really love the fake seam detail that she added down the middle of the front and the back. It's just a really nice little something to spice up what would be kind of a plain looking sweater. I'm currently stalled on this one because I ran out of that yarn, so I'm going to have to order more before I continue, but it is another one that I think will work up super quickly, and I'm excited to have that one. My next work in progress is the Anna cardigan My Size by Petite Knit. And I'm excited that I get to kind of pick back up on this one because I started it a long time ago and ran out of yarn, so it's been hibernating. And this is the Cascade 220 Superwash, and this is in the charcoal colorway. I chose this pattern because I wanted cardigans in all of my basic colors, and I don't really have many cardigans left over from my pre-baby days, which is really a bad thing because I wear cardigans anytime that I can. There's been a real hole in my closet, and I'm going to try to remedy that a lot this next year. But I chose this one because I really love the details. It has an eyelet pattern, which is really pretty and also makes it more fun to knit as well. So I'm just really excited to have this ready, and I ordered 3 more skeins of that, so I'm hoping that that will be enough to finish this one off. Next I have what I was working on last time, which was my Cumulus top by Petite Knit. And I have quite a bit to say about this one. I think the original pattern calls for a fingering weight. You might be able to go even lighter with that. It might have been light fingering. So I tried the Cascade Pima cotton, and I believe the weight is actually sport. So I knew it was going to be a tad bulkier, and I was okay with that. But I do think that it was maybe a little harder to hide some of my mistakes. What initially drew me to this pattern was the I-cord details, and I hadn't done that before. That was a completely new technique to me, so I was really excited to try it, and I did have some bumps in the road. I still have to finish the body on it. I have about this much left, so I'm going to see where that gets me. But with the I-cord, it doesn't look terrible, and it was one of those things that was kind of tedious but also satisfying. Like I didn't mind doing it at the same time, but the way that it is attached was a little messy because it was my first time, and also I found that I couldn't find many resources on YouTube, and I might just have to find the right way to search for them or look other places online, but I couldn't find videos of people actually attaching them the way that the pattern called for. And it's usually when I hit a snag in a pattern, I will look up a video because I'm a visual learner over reading instructions, but that just wasn't the case. So I did my best, and I don't see how it could have been any other way. But the thing that I had the real problem with was actually connecting the straps, because I cord half of the straps and connect to the other half. And because I already had such a weird time connecting these to make them look more organic, I just had a better time sewing them on. What I would do next time is just keep the straps completely separate and not have this break in the middle, because I'm going to have to do some work to hide some of the seaming there. What I would do is just knit the full I-cord strap and then sew them to that. But I don't think it will look horrible after I weave in all the ends and get all of that out of the way. It's just something that I wasn't completely satisfied with. And once I have this finished and blocked and everything, hopefully that will smooth out a lot of the roughness. But I still think that it will be very pretty. I love the color of this cotton. I think it's so pretty. It's just a really nice, natural natural white. I think it's going to be gorgeous as a layering piece. And finally, I have something else I can pick back up, and that is my sweater number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. This was one that I was letting sit because I ran out of the yarn for it. This was one that kind of depended on me going to Hobby Lobby, and I don't go there very often. So I was just kind of waiting. I actually planned to try it as a vest, but I just really didn't like the turtleneck. Something about the way that it looked, I knew that I wouldn't wear it as a vest probably. Also, I didn't get as far on the ends as I had hoped. So this was going to be the back originally, and I was hoping that I would have enough to make it long enough. It would be a high-low, but still there would be enough length there. But holding it up to myself, I just was not happy with where it was falling. So I'm going to make the longer portion the front, the new front, and then I'm going to add more to the back. And I can actually show you what the skein of yarn looks like this time. So it is the yarn bee, and I'm hoping that this last skein will be enough to get it off of the needles and done. I only have to do a little more on the ends and then add the sleeves. But I have high hopes for this one. I'm hoping that it's really gonna bloom when I wash and block it. And the construction in this one is a 2x2 rib knit. So it is a bit of an undertaking, but it's so worth it. And you also knit this one inside out, which is nice because the inside doesn't look quite as nice as when you turn it inside out. And that also makes a nicer shoulder seam. So I'm just really excited to finally have this one done. Hopefully that will be completed very soon. I have a lot of stuff right now that is kind of in this in-between place, and I think that's one reason why I felt a little weird about knitting lately, because I don't feel like I'm accomplishing anything even though I'm doing a lot of knitting, and it's just because I'm taking on so many projects at once. So I'm trying to keep my focus on kind of one thing at a time while also not just getting complete tunnel vision and burning myself out. But my goal right now is just to relax a little bit and enjoy myself, and I will share a couple of other things that have been helping me do that. So because I was working with my other Noro yarn on my Weekender Light, I really like these colors, but I like them more when they're separated. I saw on Ravelry where someone was using a ball of the Noro yarn like this to make flowers for a cardigan. So I went down this rabbit hole of the patchwork style cardigans, and I started experimenting a little bit with crochet. This was the first flower that I made. Even in the individual colors, there's just so much nice variation. But I was very interested in learning the techniques, and it was a little addicting to sit and work on. I don't think that I would wear a patchwork cardigan myself. I just know it would probably sit in my closet. I would like looking at it more than actually wearing it. So I was going to play with some to maybe make for my daughter. For now, I have not settled on anything. I do like that it made me go out of my comfort zone a little bit though, and I really enjoyed the crocheting more than I thought I would. I'm not sure for now, and I know that nothing good comes out of me rushing into a decision, so I'm just letting that sit. But that's just one option and what I might use for this yarn. So another thing that I just recently got back into after probably over a decade was cross-stitching. And I found this really cute store on Etsy called the Stitch Patterns, I believe. And they had a lot of really cute miniature versions of classic works of art and some different designs that just looked very small and attainable, very easy to kind of ease myself back into the practice. When I originally tried cross-stitching, I was very young, and I did everything then pretty much the same way I try to do now, which is jump in head first without learning any technique and just kind of winging it. And I would also choose these huge patterns and projects to work on, so I would get just a fraction of them done and then they would just sit around. But because of that, I did have a small stash of yarn. I also had family that was in the cross-stitching and passed some of that down to me. So I chose the pattern for Patroclus, and this is what I have so far. But I'm having so much fun with it. It's so relaxing. My other problem with this was kind of figuring out like where I use it, because I have so much stuff that I'm always trying to take on that I try to be very intentional with starting new things and making sure it's something that I can use or serve some sort of a purpose, which is not necessary, but just something I try to do to keep myself from buying too much stuff. So the way I justified this one is that I would make some small pieces of art to hang up or put on bookshelves. I actually have an empty frame on a bookshelf that I think this would look really nice in. That shop and a lot of other shops also have bookmarks, which would be great, and they would be a small kind of project that wouldn't be so intimidating, and then also you could use it after you were done. So I'm so excited because I've enjoyed this one quite a lot. I am really excited to get back into that. These projects are very small, not very intimidating, and it was a lot more relaxing than I was expecting for this time, and I think it will be really nice to kind of switch things up a little bit. So for plans, I do have a lot that I'm hoping to get to soon, but I'm going to hold off on some of that because I want to put together a more comprehensive list for my Make 9 of next year. But for now, I am hoping to make some more stuffed animals for my daughter. I found the designer Dots Pebbles Knits, I believe, on Etsy last year, and I loved their designs. They're so beautiful. And I made my daughter one of the cats, and she really loved that. And so recently I let her actually look on the shop and pick out a couple of animals to make. And the patterns she chose were the wild rabbit and the tiny bunny. I really liked the last pattern, and I found that it was very beginner friendly and approachable for a person who was new into sewing stuffed animals. And so I'm not too worried about the pattern this time. I am a little intimidated by the size, just because especially the tiny bunny looks like it's going to be very tiny, but I am really interested to see how the construction of these go. For the yarn, I decided to try the recommended ones, which is drops, and that is a little tricky to get in the United States. I think now that since I've ordered this, I did find a place online, so I will put that in the description below. But for these, I ordered them on Etsy. And most of the yarn recommended was Drops Flora. The color selection is so pretty. But these are the beige mix and the brown mix. And then I also needed just a white and a peach pink. And then I believe this one was Drops Nord. And this was in, I want to say it was goldenrod. It was just the very bright yellow color, which is also so nice. And I believe that the way they write the patterns is that some of these will be held together to create variation in the fur. And it also calls for mohair to add some of the fluff and the softness. You will need a white, which I have a little bit of, but might have to get from somewhere else because the shop I was buying from on Etsy was out. But I did get the dark brown mohair. And that looks really nice too. This is my first time kind of messing with this yarn, so I am really excited to see how it works up, because aside from the shipping, the yarn price was super affordable, so I was really surprised by that. And if there's a way that it is even more accessible with easier shipping to the United States, then that would be a very affordable way to work up some new projects. So that is all I have to share for my knitting this time. As for my sewing, I am in the middle of a project right now, but I am trying to take it slow. I am working on a pair of bisque trousers, and I went in deciding to make this the pair of pants that I did whatever it took to get them right and to a place where I not only could wear them but would want to wear them out in public. And I'm trying to really take my time and learn how to properly tailor what I make so that I will wear them for sure. So right now I have a lot of my pants actually back in my work in progress basket because I am working on fixing those issues. And for my bisque trousers, I made a muslin for it, but I ended up cutting some corners in that. I left off the pockets, which actually adds to the width of the pants. So when I did my actual pants, there was a lot more space. Usually I would just start hacking away at them and get to kind of a weird spot, but this time I decided to be smart about it, to do research, learn how to fix the parts of the pants that were bugging me, which meant I was taking more off of the outside of the legs instead of messing with the inseam at all. So I decided to pick them out completely, recut the fabric into a better size because you have your slant pockets, so you have to be a little careful when tailoring them on the sides as well. But I hope those are done by the next time I sit down to film. I am doing them in this really pretty, I think it's cotton sateen fabric that I found at Joann. I'm very hopeful about these because I think that they might be the first pair of pants that I make and are completely satisfied with as far as being able to want to wear them and for them to be more flattering than some of my past projects. But yeah, that is all I have for my making this time. I have a lot that I am excited to share with you at the beginning of the year, hopefully. As far as my reading goes, I've finished a couple of things that I was working on. I finished the Fingersmith that I was reading last time, which was fantastic. I loved that book, and I have really recently gotten back into audiobooks in a big way, trying to create some order around the house. But I just finished 2 audiobooks, the first being The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, who is one of my favorites, and her work never disappoints, and this book was no different. I don't know why I put this one off for so long, but I have been kind of interested in watching the series on Netflix finally because I've enjoyed Mike Flanagan's work in the past. I really liked what he did with Gerald's Game, but I watched Midnight Mass recently, and I just loved that show. I thought it was so great. So I decided that I had to read Shirley Jackson's book before I watched the show, and it's one of the few of hers that I haven't read, so I really enjoyed that. And I also read My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. This is the first book of his that I've read. I really liked his writing, but it was not my kind of thriller. I just don't think I could ever get used to the protagonist's inner dialogue. I thought that it was very believable and also relatable in a lot of ways, but it was also just kind of hard to listen to at times. I still plan on reading some of his other work so I can get a better gauge on his writing. I also finally received my copy of The Fall of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. This is my favorite book series right now, and I have read a little ways in. I'm about 150 pages in and really loving it so far. I'm very ambivalent about this one because I am so excited to see where it goes, but I'm also so sad that it's ending. These books are just like no other that I've read. The amount of impact that can be put into fewer words is very important to me, and real character development that kind of sneaks up on you or that actually has to develop. I'm always a big fan of that, and the amount that you care for them kind of sneaks up on you, so that you are very nervous going into a final book because you know that an author has the power to do whatever, because this is it. So I am nervous but really excited and really loving it so far, but I didn't doubt that I would. I've also been watching the Wheel of Time series, which is a book series that I read like 3 1/4 of the books of, and I didn't know if I would ever go back to them. I'm really enjoying the show. It took a little bit for me, and I think it took a little bit itself to kind of find its footing, but after 4 or 5 episodes, I feel like it really kind of settled into place. And now that we are more settled in the world of it, I'm just really excited to see where it goes. And they've taken some liberties, which can be kind of nerve-wracking to like diehard fans of the book, but I think it's also very exciting, especially if you're like me and the books didn't always work for you. It makes me excited to see where they could improve upon certain things. Besides that, I don't have time for much else. I've been enjoying all the little ways I've been veering off in my making and getting kind of a break from the norm, but I'm also excited to get back into seriously sewing and knitting, and I will hopefully be able to put together a good Make 9. I also wanted to do something for my reading this year, but I have read 80 books so far this year, more than I've ever read, and enjoyed most of them because I DNF very ruthlessly if I don't like a book. So there's no way I'm going to be able to touch on all of the books, but I'm hoping to be able to put together a concise recommendations list and be able to talk about some of the books that I didn't always get to mention on here. Like always, thank you for watching, and let me know what you're making if you have any tips, suggestions, or recommendations, and I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you soon.